Hi Ajay. It's awesome to talk to you again. We're here for another video, and we're going to continue with the MaujLo series because there's still so many questions I have about MaujLo, and I'm sure our viewers do as well. So I think in the first video we discussed what Mauj is. In the last video we discussed how my Mauj is taken away, how anyone's Mauj is taken away. I think, and by the end of it, we came down to a very interesting topic that I think we decided to do this video to explore it. The environment, right? We cannot live without it. We cannot escape it. And whether we like it or not, we're excessively influenced by it. So what I want to understand is what role does, let's say, Mauj and the environment play in either supporting or taking away my Mauj. So let's begin there, and then I think we'll get down to the brass tacks.
Right. So, just to summarize, what we discussed earlier, that our notions and how fixed they are actually ends up determining whether somebody will be able to live life joyfully or not. Okay. Now, obviously, man doesn't operate in vacuum. It operates in an environment. You're born in a particular family, you have a certain neighborhood, you go to a particular school, then you have certain friends, and then you end up taking up jobs, and then you have relationships going. Somewhere you have warm relationships, somewhere you don't have, not so warm relationships. So clearly, whatever the person is getting through various interactions that he has with the universe, in terms of the people that it meets, or the experiences that he has. He tries something, he fails at something, he is successful at certain things, he begins to relate to certain kind of music, he begins to like certain kind of food, etc. That actually has a big impact on a person, right? A person's whole dimension, the whole persona is nothing but the kind of imprint that has happened in the person's psyche based on the interactions that a person has with the environment. If somebody is born in a village, right, he may have certain kind of an impression, certain kind of an exposure, and that will actually determine how the person is going to think, what kind of goals he will have, and things like that. So clearly, environment definitely has a huge role to play. In fact, a very significant role to play on the person's Mauj. The person who has to live joyfully has to be aware that the kind of imprint that the environment has on him versus the inner sort of desires and inner voices that are there, in his head. So that interplay you should have in order for you to live joyfully. For example, let us say you are told by your parents that, okay, you must, wake up early in the morning, right? And somehow you're of the type that you get very charged up only at night, okay? You're very lazy in the morning, okay? You take your own sweet time, to get up. Your body is so tight, you take 10 minutes to, move yourself out of the bed, and then you just walk lazily towards your washroom.
Not a morning person.
You're not a morning person because now you must be aware that, okay, it may become very I would say you become very frustrated if parents come and tell you, look, get up, and it's morning time, etc. All good kids get up early in the morning and do this, that, the other. Whereas that I'm not really of this type. Some people like to study in the morning, some people like to study in the evening. Correct. It depends upon their own thing, right? So that awareness is extremely important. That while I am told this, I am like this. It's fine. It is their knowledge. He understands that his or her parents were also told this particular thing, and they understood that to be universal truth, and they thought that's the universal truth for everybody. And therefore they are acting like this, but I am not like this, I am like this. So it's fine, they shout at me, I just listen to that, I don't get ruffled by it. Okay, so he understanding that the universe, how let's say one dimension of million things that a person interacts with, right? So how that person is conducting, they have a very pious intention, obviously, to make their child live a very nice life, but according to their own methodology, so to say. But you may have a very different persona. So that awareness of how that dimension of universe is conducting, how it is coming to you, why it is coming to you, Now, also you becoming aware of what kind of a person you are and accepting it. Fine. You don't have to really kill yourself. Oh, that I am a night person. I'm not a morning person. I am failing in my duties of following my parents' wishes. Therefore, I am making them upset. My mom is very upset, etc., etc. So, as a young kid, you may have this kind of a notion. So obviously a kid doesn't know all this, right? It's only later in life, it's actually the more the duty of their parents to be aware of the fact that, look, whatever they're telling their kids is not really the truth that can apply. One skill fit all approach is so bad, and that is somehow, you see, all these things happen unconsciously. When we operate unconsciously, all these things happen very naturally. And in that natural state of conduct, we don't even know how much of a harm parents are inflicting on their child. Not really harm in terms of, taking his happiness away, but later on in life, he may have so much of guilt, oh, wish I had studied, wish I had woken up, I would not have this, illness in me or whatever, right? So a lot of things can happen, you don't know. So a person has to be aware that environment is definitely going to impact on there. He can't get an imprint from nowhere. The environment will have an impact on him. He will interact, but he has to be consciously aware of the fact that the rationale, why some imprint is coming to them in a particular way, and how much of that is have an impact on them, and who they truly are, and accepting who they are, and then living consciously and not being affected by the environment to the extent it is not in line with your desires. And also, first of all, you have to be aware of your own desires, to what kind of person you are. So in that sense, environment is definitely a huge role to play. In fact, your joy essentially can't come from vacuum. You just can't go and sit in Himalayas that, okay, now I'm in joyful mood. I don't have to
then also
anybody.
You're part of an environment.
Yeah,
so
even that environment, only physical environment. You may not be talking to anybody. You may be talking to birds and animals and stuff like that. So running away from environment is not the solution. But being aware of how that environment is impacting is important.
Yeah. So I think what you said, I agree with almost all of it. That I've also, in my personal experience, I've noticed. Even non-human entities like social media, like marketing, like simple magazines that portray a certain body image and so on and so forth. And obviously this has been a debate in our culture for a very long time about how essentially this, let's say at a very early age, or not even at an early age, even later in life, you're constantly bombarded with the fact that how celebrities have the coolest life ever. And somewhere you decide that, celebrities really do have the coolest life ever. And then you decide maybe that I want this life because I've seen people value it so much. And that's how my personal source of joy, at least my notion of where my joy is going to come from, while it is also many steps removed, it is also not per se my own choice, really, right, of what I really think will give me joy. So I think what I want to really say is, most of the people who will watch this video, they will not be at a stage where they're about to begin life, right? There is no sort of moment where you're about to begin your life. You're always in life, right, from the day you're born. So let's say I'm already in life, right, and I believe that here's my notion, or here's my idea of where I think my joy is going to come from. Is there a litmus test or a test that you can tell us that will allow people to understand whether the source of the joy that they have identified is come from them, it's who they are, it's what they truly desire, or it's coming from the environment? Because I'm sure you can understand, for an individual inside that environment, experiencing it day in, day out, to them it feels very real. Someone who's a schizophrenic, while they may imagine a different personality or entirely be taken over by a different personality, they're not aware of it. So I think it's a little difficult to assume that everyone will be aware of their environment and how it's impacting them. So do you think you have an advice for someone like this, so that they can figure out for themselves whether their goals are in line or not?
Okay. So, there is everybody, whosoever is doing something or the other, because there is nothing called a destination. Okay, now you have arrived. It's always a journey. Okay, now some people may be pursuing certain things because out of, let's say, a million things they were exposed to, they actually copied, or they kind of only absorbed, let's say, 10 things, and they kind of, the rest of the things didn't impact them. So it also comes with the genetic conditioning, that what kind of person you are, because everybody is going to be taken through till class 12, all subjects. Of course, after 10th, you sort of specialize. But not all the kids will actually specialize in everything. You actually pick up few things out of the environment. So if you're a social media kind of a person, you hear 10 things, and with a celebrity thing, whether it is a social service thing, whether I want to do social service, I want to do, for example, good for environment, or
My
I want
planet
to,
is dying, I need to save
planet
it.
is dying,
Yeah.
etc., etc. So you must understand that, and that I am somebody who gets deeply impacted by looks. Okay, I am somebody who's deeply impacted by seeing, kids, suffer. I'm somebody who's deeply impacted by social service. I am somebody who's deeply impacted or attracted by spirituality or meditation and things like that. So if you get exposed and you get impacted by it, I'm saying do whatever you feel like doing in that mode of the impact. Now, as you take steps, as you move ahead, you'll begin to realize that are you really enjoying, or are you really, not enjoying? What is happening? And slowly, as I said, there are voices inside you which nobody can tell you. Okay, those voices, if you pay attention to it, it will actually take over. But also the fact of the matter is that if environment is such that it keeps bombarding you time and again, that there's a possibility that the inner voice may just be there, and maybe later in life that realization may come in. So that is where people say that if you can listen to, of course, we all listen to the voices which come to us from outside. We listen to the media which is from outside. We listen to our parents. We listen to our bosses. We listen to our partners. We listen to everything which is happening around us. But we never listen to ourselves, and listening to ourselves is not very difficult. If you are doing something, and that doing something gives you a sense of uneasiness, it's a bit of an unease, feeling. It triggers that unease feeling within you. You should know that, look, this is not really, you're doing something because of some external factor, and not because of your internal. Now, it may so happen, it's not that simple, let me complicate. It may so happen that you've done the analysis, I'm not very happy doing this, but by not doing this, I will be more unhappy. For example, let us say environment factor. Let's say I've been told since childhood that, look, I have to take care of my younger sister. Let's say my younger sister, that now you deeply love your sister, and now you have to go for a party, with your friends, and at the same time your sister also has to go. Now you've been told by your parents, look, you have to make sure that take care of her. She's not going to be with you, and she's will go away. Now you want to go and have a party with your friends. That's the moment of joy. But at the same time, you realize that, look, if I don't let my sister go, then, and both are, by the way, either of you can go, not one, because somebody is going to come at house, somebody important, right? And then you think that, look, if I don't let my sister go, I'm going to carry a lot of guilt in my head, because that's how your mind has been conditioned. Yeah. So you have given up your own party to let your sister go and have fun. Not because you're pretty holier than thou, but you chose to decide in a way that give you lesser pain.
So by doing it, I get some amount of discomfort, but if I didn't do it, I'll get much greater
discomfort.
So I think essentially
all that thing. No, this is a very subtle thing where you're very conscious about the feeling of other person. Now, other person, your own feeling, etc. But 99% of the time, we don't care about how we feel. Feeling is very important. So having a watch on how we feel is extremely critical for somebody to analyze how the environment is impacting you. How are you getting impacted? What kind of things which are giving you a sense of heightened joy and stuff like that. And that's where, if you can sort of be aware, you can analyze the impact of universe it has on you and the imprint that it has on you, and accordingly conduct.
Can you suggest like some tools or tips that might allow someone to at least have a recurring thought that I need to be more aware of my feelings and skills, and to self-reflect? So for example, if I want to be more productive, I know I need to make to-do lists. So if I want to be more self-aware, and if I want to be able to remind myself to introspect a lot, are there any tips, tools, mantras? I mean, I don't want to say the word mantras, but anything that you can suggest that might push a person to, let's say, think of this more often. Like, sure, right now someone watches this video, they're going to be like, yeah, he's right, I need to self-reflect. Later, 2 days later, a week later, when they're in the middle of life and life is really affecting them, what can they remember?
So reflection, you said, right? At a physical level, how do you reflect? You need a mirror. If you don't have a mirror, you can't reflect. Or if you see a very clean water, you look into the water, you get a reflection. Okay, so looking into yourself is somebody needs to tell you who you are, right? Now, one way is that you need to have somebody by your side who actually tells you who you are, and that person has to be absolutely pure like water, pure like mirror, right? So that you can truly see yourself without having the color of the water impacting your reflection, right? So therefore, in that sense, the value of guru, the value of somebody,
a teacher,
a mentor, who's so aware that he knows that when I'm sitting with somebody, I'm not letting my personal biases impact him. That is the level of guru, which is why it is very tough to find somebody, a true mentor who can actually give you your 360-degree view of who you truly are. Of course, there are psychometric tests out there which actually you do to yourself, and then that tells you who you are.
Reveals the basics about your
personality. Exactly, but those are very, I would say, very mundane, mundane, right? It gives you a persona kind of a
very generalistic. It's not subjective.
I personally feel that the true test, if you look at it, to reflect. So if you want to, let's say, see how you're conducting, the other way to do it, which is to record yourself. Let's say if you are we're recording ourselves, now we're sitting in a particular way, we're talking in a particular manner. Now we also look back these videos and we say, now we need to change something. This is not I thought we were doing or we should be doing. We should do it in a different way. So life goes by, doesn't stop, but nobody records it, right? So unless you see how your day has gone by, you will not come to know which part of the day you really felt joyful, which part of the day you were very, you felt very bad. So you only look at the outcomes. Okay, I got this order and therefore I must have done something right. Or I got angry because other person may have done something wrong. Or maybe I was in the wrong place, wrong time, blame it on luck, whatever. But whatever happens in the day, you record that. Okay, have somebody, a friend of you, record you like a shadow. He remains a shadow.
But also something as simple as writing a diary entry everyday work as well.
So I was coming to that. So this is one part of it. Just recording. Let your friend know. It's very impractical, but if you're a really good friend and he can do this, just watch that video for a week. Record it, watch video. If not, just have it in your room, record yourself, and then actually tell you a lot about you. Of course, it's only the physical level. But if you're wanting to deeply introspect as to how, what's happening inside you, actually it's at the end of the day. This is what I actually do. At the end of the day, before you go to sleep, not the next day morning. Maybe next day morning is a better way. I do it before I go to sleep. To look at how the day went by. And then look at the highlights. The highlights meaning the highs and the lows. And then you begin to realize, oh man, when I was doing this, when I was eating this, when I was not doing this, when I went there, I was angry, happy, sad.
You get into a repetitive exercise of, let's say, describing your actions and attaching feelings to them.
Attaching to them, exactly. And then you realize, oh man, this is what is happening, or this is how I ended up deciding. Now, the self-analyzing mode can come in only if things don't go right for you in life. Okay, if things go right for you, you never look at analyzing what was right, what was not right, because self-analysis is not something that can come naturally. For example, if you ask the best of the maestros like players, etc., they're not necessarily the best coaches available, right? Because there is something so inherently wired in them. They themselves didn't know which aspect of their game they worked on, etc. So it's not that they knew exactly what they were doing. It just happened, right? This is called genetic conditioning, right? So somebody who was deeply introspected can be in his own feelings about how other people think. That is where those are the kind of people who can actually give you a sense of hold the mirror for you completely in an unbiased manner and give you the advice, and then you can accept it and then move ahead.
Yeah, fair enough. I think just before we go, I think it just serves to benefit our viewers as well. Just to summarize everything, essentially, I think what I'm at least taking away from this conversation is that our environment has a huge impact on us. Obviously, we cannot live in a vacuum, but our environment also results in us making choices that are necessarily not in line with who we truly are. And the way to actually bring those things in line is to actually attain Mauj when they're off sync, our Mauj is taken away. And to do so is either to find a coach, a mentor, for example, how I have you, or to go have tools that essentially promote self-reflection. So you can either have a friend record you, or you can write a diary, but essentially the idea is to have routines daily that sort of remind you to introspect on a daily basis, where essentially you go back to your day, think about it, and realize here are the actions that I did or the situations I was in, and attach very strong feelings to them, whether I liked it, whether I didn't like it. I felt positive feelings also, and what kind of positive feelings. And eventually I think over a period of time that activity in itself will scream at you whether the day you spend, most days you spend, whether you're doing things that make you happy or not. And if you are spending more time, I think, being unhappy, then you know that the goals that you're pursuing are more environment driven versus in line with who you are. I think one very important thing to sort of touch base on again is that sometimes we make decisions that may not necessarily directly benefit us, but not doing them as well will result in greater discomfort. So for example, I'm not happy in my job, but if I leave my job, I don't have the right skills to find another job and support my family financially. So in that situation, obviously you can't help it but do that. So I think to help people like that, I think we'll get back and come up with a whole different video.
Sure.
But it was a pleasure talking to you, and I would urge all our viewers to share your thoughts. Let us know that are your goals in line with who you really are, how to find a mentor, and more than enough questions I guess are buzzing around in your head. Ajay will be happy to answer all of them, and I'm sure he'll be willing to mentor some of you guys as well. So like our videos, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel because more fun videos are coming your way. Until next time.